My name is Jonathan Margolis. I am the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Science, Space, and Health in the United States Department of State. On behalf of the Department of State, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the GIST TechConnect Pakistan event. I want to start by thanking CRDF Global colleagues for their hard work in putting this event together and for their efforts to build entrepreneurship ecosystems around the world, as well as the MIT Enterprise Forum and our department colleagues in Washington and Pakistan. I'd also like to thank the Indus Entrepreneurs, Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, NUST, Comstats, ICRA University, Punjab, IT Board, Open, and NED University in Karachi for their support in making this event a reality. We are happy to feature this program during Innovation and Entrepreneurship Month at the Department of State. As President Obama has said, technology innovation and entrepreneurship are vital to the United States and the global economy. Pakistan is an important partner in our activities and has great promise to develop a strong, knowledge-based economy. In November 2011, the State Department began a series of video conferences to link successful diaspora entrepreneurs with their counterparts in Pakistan to discuss ways to overcome challenges they may face. We then helped to finance and coordinate the first ever Young Entrepreneurs Conference alongside the Islamabad Chamber of Commerce's Youth Entrepreneurs Chapter. And most recently, the Department of State hosted 30 entrepreneurs from the Pakistan 100, the fastest growing companies in Pakistan as ranked by Harvard University and the All World Network. The Department of State launched GIST a little over a year ago, and we are very pleased with the results. Globally, GIST has connected 1 million youth with entrepreneurship and innovation tools and resources. With over 13,000 entrepreneurs as part of the GIST community, Pakistan has been one of the strongest countries in this initiative, and we are excited to launch our GIST TechConnect series today with you. We are committed to identifying and supporting young entrepreneurs like all of you to create a successful startup company through skills development, networking, and financial advice. The GIST network extends through Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. We work with US and local experts to ensure that high potential startups have the support that they need and that the best, most market-driven products make their way to the marketplace. Today, we have a fabulous panel of entrepreneurs and venture capitalists. I want to thank Jeff Hoffman, Matt Cooper, and Faisal Sohail for their time and for sharing their expertise with everyone. You are great role models and mentors for the audience watching today across Pakistan and the world. And now, I'm pleased to introduce Kathy Campbell, the CEO of CRDF Global, to introduce our moderator.
Hello, my name is Kathy Campbell, and I'm CEO of CRDF Global, an organization that has been proudly supporting technology entrepreneurs in more than 40 countries. Today, I am pleased to announce a pilot project called TechConnect that is being implemented under the Global Innovation through Science and Technology, or GIST, initiative. TechConnect allows us to use technology to connect hundreds of people around the world. Today, we connect people who speak the same language, people who believe in the power of entrepreneurs, the power of you, young and dynamic people, to change your communities, your countries, your regions. It is no accident that Pakistan was chosen as the first country for this pilot project. Pakistan's entrepreneurs have been very active in the GIST initiative this past year. Together with our local partner, MIT Enterprise Forum Pakistan, we have been impressed with the entrepreneurial spirit, drive, and energy of Pakistan's young population. We are often asked whether entrepreneurs are born or taught. Our answer is that it is not one or the other, and this is why we value GIST. Through GIST, we identify people who care and are passionate about what they do. We coach them, match them with mentors, and provide funding and access to more resources to allow them to succeed faster. We are very fortunate to have with us today forward-thinking mentors who will share their insights and advice with you. Becoming a successful entrepreneur is hard work, but it also is very rewarding. If you have an idea, act on it. Pursue your dreams. Believe in yourselves. Do not let anyone discourage you. And think big. There is nothing you cannot do. Today we are excited to have with us 3 entrepreneurship experts to connect with young entrepreneurs and university students throughout Pakistan. Welcome to all of you joining us online. Ovidiu Bujuran, our moderator for today's discussion, is the program manager for the GIST initiative at CRDF Global and one of the innovative minds behind the program. Ovidiu, over to you.
Thank you, Kathy. This webinar is going to be fantastic. We have more than 100 individual logins online and also 19 viewing groups at universities throughout Pakistan and quite a crowd gathered here in DC. This level of outreach is possible because of the partnership between the U.S. State Department, the U.S. Mission in Pakistan, MIT Enterprise Forum of Pakistan, and MIT Enterprise Forum of DC. We would invite you to use the hashtag #GIST and @Pakistan when talking about the event today. Today's session of GIST TechConnect will begin a dialogue among panelists and American and Pakistani entrepreneurs, mentors, and investors to exchange experiences, perspectives, and trends in technology and entrepreneurship. We hope today is a beginning of a continued linkage between the US and the Pakistani entrepreneurship communities. To begin, we want to look at some of the great ideas that are coming out of Pakistan. Here's one GIST transformer, a Pakistani entrepreneur who has participated in the GIST activities and is now transforming his innovation ecosystem. Listen as he shares his story about his company and his interaction with the GIST initiative.
From Lahore, Pakistan, Chief Operating Officer of Soltech Energy Solutions. Soltech Energy Solutions is providing hot water using the rare and efficient technology of solar ponds. We are in the process of developing a commercial industrial scale prototype for our business plan. We encourage all other entrepreneurs in Pakistan to take international competitions like GIST Tech in order to get mentorship and guidance for their business ideas. Thank you all.
Thank you, Riz and Yusuf. We are very proud to have you as part of our GIST community, a growing community. As we've heard, mentorship and networking has been a great part of this entrepreneur's journeys to success. So now I'll introduce you to the panelists so you can hear from them more about their experiences. We have with us Jeff Hoffman, who is partner and founder in Color Jar, a venture accelerator firm that helps entrepreneurs and small business owners launch and grow new business ventures. Mr. Hoffman is perhaps best known as the founder and CEO of Priceline.com, currently valued at $31 billion US dollars, a family of companies where he led the development and launch of Priceline Consumers Company, Priceline Yard Sale. Another panelist with us is Faisal Sohail, who joined Simia Capital as a venture capitalist, where he works primarily with the energy and technology sectors in US and around the world. He's a Pakistani American who is also a member of Open in Silicon Valley, and we'd like to acknowledge Open support to actually confirm Mr. Sohail as a panelist. And Open promotes entrepreneurship and business leadership, including supports such efforts in Pakistan. And we have as well Matt Cooper, VP of Marketplace Operations for Odesk, who has more than a decade of executive operating experience in both startup and Fortune 500 companies. Matt puts his finance, operations, and strategy expertise to work leading Odesk risk management, customer support and services, and marketplace operation teams. I would like to ask now, moving to the question side, I will start with Matt. Odesk is a company, is a startup, is a VC-backed startup that went through various growth stages. I'd like to ask you, as you are one of the people behind the scaling up of the operations of Odesk, some of your experiences in actually growing your startup to the stage where it's now that has become a leading online platform for human capital.
Yeah, so I think the experience of Odesk over the last couple of years has been exactly that. How do we take an idea that is proven, which when I joined in 2009, we had traction, it was clearly a good model, but then how do we scale it to where we are today? And I think particularly for network-driven models and ecosystem-driven models, there's always this chicken and the egg between supply and demand. You need both sides of the equation to get the flywheel going. And for Odesk, there was that constant balance of focusing on bringing in high-quality contractors into the network, to provide the supply side, but then also bringing in high-quality companies and buyers of services to make sure that that ecosystem stays healthy. I think the other main challenge is balancing an open ecosystem and an open network versus one that's more closed and curated. Open systems tend to grow faster. Curated systems, you tend to have better control over the client experience. So I think between those two, most of our strategic and executive discussions over the last 3 years have centered around finding the right balance between those two questions.
Thank you, Matt. Very exciting. I would like to move now to Faisal. You are a very successful venture capitalist and also entrepreneur. You are here because of hard work, dedication, smartness, but also maybe because in your career you had people that supported you, advised you, and mentored you. I think it would be useful for our entrepreneurs in audience to learn from you one example from your career where you benefited from the support of a person or organization.
That's a great question. Certainly, I think after I finished my undergraduate in engineering, I came out to Stanford to do my graduate studies, and I was very fortunate to have a professor and head of the research lab who was a just incredibly great mentor. And over the last, we ended up doing 3 startups together. So I left Stanford actually to start my first company with him. And then a few years later, he was back at Stanford teaching, and he left again, and we started another company. And then he went back to Stanford. Now he's the head of the electrical engineering department at Stanford, and still continues to this day be a great mentor. And I would say what was great about him was that he's one of the smartest guys I've ever worked with, but at the same time, he was extremely driven, and he would not let me slack off at all. I think I've only been called a moron once in my life, and it was by him. He would not take anything less than sort of perfect work, and both as a professor and as a boss and as a partner. And I think finding people like that are extremely driven, extremely smart, and really want to help you be successful, help you succeed in what you're doing, and make sure that you are the best that you can be. So I was extremely fortunate to have that type of mentor, and I would encourage everybody to look for that. I mean, they're all around us. They're in everybody's lives, whether there's a professor, whether it's a business person, whether it is in your family. I would really encourage people to find that one person who can really help them.
It's a very inspiring example. It's very interesting that you actually continued with the mentor throughout a number of ventures. So it's important that the relationship can go on long term. Right. Now back to Jeff. Very glad to have you with us, Jeff. And you, as a successful American entrepreneur and also member of the GIST Advisory Board, very proud to have you with us. You traveled around the world and you interacted with entrepreneurs in Pakistan, in Malaysia, in Egypt. Would be wonderful to hear from you some of your thoughts of your interactions with the entrepreneurs and how you see them comparing with the American entrepreneurs, similarities, differences, some of your unique experiences you had interacting with them.
Sure. So, you know, the beauty of entrepreneurship is that it's about ideas, and the beauty of ideas is that a good idea doesn't care where it came from. A good idea does not care if you're male, female, old, young, black, white, what country, what ethnicity you have. So there have always been smart people all over the world. The difference is, in the United States, they had the tools to do something with their idea and get it known that the rest of the world didn't have. So the ideas were just as good in Africa and Asia, in the Middle East, and all these places, but they didn't have the platform to get them out. What's really exciting to me now, and this year alone, I've met with entrepreneurs in South America and Asia and Africa, all over the world. With today's tool set, with social media tools, with all the online connectivity, there is the ability for somebody with an idea in Pakistan actually to share it with the world. And they didn't have that before. Right. There's the ability for an entrepreneur in Egypt actually to reach out and find me, or in any country in the world, express their idea. And there are tools now that the world didn't have. So the same tools that we would use in Silicon Valley or anywhere in the United States, they would help us create our ideas, launch our startups, manage our business, promote, advertise, all the things that we do. Those tools are available all over the world. So it could not have been a more exciting year and time in entrepreneurship, because finally every entrepreneur in the world has a chance to take center stage and take their idea. First of all, we usually recommend that they build their idea in their country and prove it first, but the ability to reach a global audience or to reach out to people like us to have an event like this today would not be possible without that technology. With that technology today, I am getting good ideas almost every day, email, text, in some way. Some entrepreneur somewhere in the world, half a dozen Pakistani entrepreneurs contacted me in the last couple days before this event to share ideas with me, and they were just as brilliant as anything I hear in Silicon Valley. So I think tools, technology, information, and a connected community is what makes the playing field level, or at least a lot more likely for entrepreneurs everywhere now. And I think that's great.
I think that's a great point, and I think this type of event, the TechConnect, aims to address just that, actually connecting entrepreneurs, investors, mentors across geographies so that the ideas can flow both ways. So I think that's very exciting to hear that you experience the same. Now let's open up to questions from for our panelists from the Pakistani entrepreneurs. Here's a question from Maha Yusuf of Piezoelectric Solutions, and Sekumi, who is from Islamabad. As these questions are answered, please send your questions by typing in the space below.
Hello, I'm Maha Yusuf, and I'm here to ask my questions for Jeff Hoffman and Matt Cooper. My first question for Jeff Hoffman is, how did you keep a balance between your startup and studies at Yale University as a student? How did you manage to work on your startup without being a dropout? And how did you budget your finance and entrepreneurial dreams? What advice can you give me for my entrepreneurial and academic career simultaneously?
Okay, Maha, that's a great question. And I will tell you, the answer to your question of how you manage a startup and university at the same time is two words: no sleep. The simple truth is this: successful entrepreneurs are people that set specific goals and then do what they have to do to achieve those goals. I had specific goals in mind in that I knew there was a set of things that I wanted to learn before I became an entrepreneur, so I didn't want to drop out. I needed to finish that education. And the answer is simply hard work. I had to stay up and work a lot more hours than my classmates because I wanted the learning I got from university coupled with the startup that I was running, which I needed to finance my education. So set specific goals, be willing to do what you need to do. But the truth to your question, Maha, is there is no easy answer. I just simply had to work a lot longer hours than everybody else did to be able to balance both of those things.
Great. Thanks for the excellent question, Maha. Now we have a question from Maria Omar of the Women's Digital League, who is from Rawalpindi.
My question to both the VCs is, what is more important to you, the business plan, the entire business plan, and do you even read it, or the 5 minutes presentation, the 10 minutes presentation time that the startup may have to pitch their idea to you?
If you would like to answer.
Sure, Maria, I'll take that question since we see over 5,000 business plans a year. I would say VCs at the first glance hardly ever read the business plan, let alone the entire business plan. The most important thing we're looking for is the entrepreneur. We're really looking to see what is the passion of the entrepreneur, what's the capability of the entrepreneur and the entrepreneur team, how strong is the team. Once we really get past that and really believe in the team, that's when we start paying a lot of the detailed attention to the business plan. Because we all know, having been an entrepreneur and having built 3 companies, we never ended up doing what the business plan said. Business plan is a great exercise to make sure that you've thought about everything, you've addressed everything, but it hardly is the way companies get built. It hardly is the way you end up achieving success. The best entrepreneurs are the ones who actually figure out how to get around the obstacles, get around the brick walls that you're going to run into in your business plan, because you simply haven't been able to think through all the issues you're going to face because you haven't seen them yet. So although I like to see a robust business plan to know that the entrepreneur has the ability to think through and articulate what they plan to do, but that's not the deciding point for me. For me, the most important thing is the entrepreneur and their ability to fix the problems when they occur. So it's a bit of both, but certainly the entrepreneur first.
That's great.
Yeah, and actually, from the entrepreneur side, I'll second that. I mean, I think the best advice I've had is if you're looking for money, ask for advice, and if you're looking for advice, ask for money. Because if you go out looking for money as the sole focus, it's a tougher road, particularly if it's your first time. And building relationships, finding mentors, finding people who you can bounce ideas off of. Yeah, I think getting someone excited about your business first, and excited about you and your capabilities, they're betting on you. And to the extent you've got the next Google as your business model, that's great. But very few people walk into the huge opportunity. And I know just from Odesk's own experience, we didn't start out as an online work marketplace. We started out basically as a software company, and then sort of evolved into global staffing, then evolved into this open marketplace model. So I'll second the investing in the people first and the business model second.
Great, thank you Faisal and Matt. And we have one more video submissions, 2 questions from Imtiaz ul Haq.
Hi, my name is Imtiaz. I have 2 questions. First of all, how important is VC backing? A lot of these more successful startups do have VC backing, but in my case, for example, I expect to generate revenue from day one, so can grow organically. But VC backing would, I'm sure, would help me scale up faster, and also because I ultimately want to sell off my startup. Would you recommend going for VC funding for someone in my case, or do you think that if I can secure my funding from other areas, to not necessarily have to turn towards this option? Secondly, I wanted to ask you, how important is the ecosystem for any startup? Like, for example, in Pakistan, the ecosystem is not very developed. So do you think that's an important element in determining the success of a startup? Would it make more sense, for example, for me to move to the US or to the UK and London, for example? And the questions are open for everyone. In fact, it would be good if we can have more than one view on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Imtiaz. If we could have each one of you maybe say a few words. I think the questions were very rich.
Sure. So I think most importantly, Imtiaz, when you're talking about taking VC money versus organic growth and selling the company, I think you have to have a lot of clarity in your mind in terms of what you're trying to build. If you want to build a smaller organic business and be profitable and you want to sell it and have control over it in that respect, don't take VC money. That's not what VC money is for. I think if you have a much bigger vision, you want to build something much bigger, and you're not necessarily even thinking about selling it, you really want to build it and then let the market decide at the end whether you sell it or you take it public or you grow it further. That's the type of area where I think the VC money, the advice from the VCs and the connections of the VCs come in very handy. So I think it's very important for you to know what you're asking for, because you don't want to get VC money and get VCs on your board and then decide you really want to have a small company you control and you sell whenever you want to sell. Because our returns dictate, our investment thesis and philosophies dictate that when we invest in companies to build very large enterprises. Otherwise, our business model doesn't work. So it's not in our interest to invest a little bit of money and get a small sale to somebody. That's just not the way our business works. So I think it's important for you to know that. Otherwise, you'll have a very rude awakening one day with your board. When you want to sell or keep a company small, profitable, versus they want to build and have it be much larger. So that's the first answer I would give to the VC or not VC. As far as the ecosystem is concerned, I think you absolutely need an ecosystem to build a company, but that doesn't mean you need to move the company to Silicon Valley where everybody else is building. But you do need to figure out what the issues are that you need to fulfill, what type of mentors you need, what type of resources you need, and you need to figure out how to access them. And I think that's one of the programs like GIST is perfect, because these types of programs are providing you access to people that can help your startup ecosystem while you're still in Pakistan, as opposed to having to be in Chicago or having to be in San Francisco. So those are the types of things I would look for.
Matt, would you like to add on the VC question?
Yeah, so on the VC aspect, the two things you said in the question, the one about scaling. And I always hear that, I want to scale, I want to scale, I want to scale. And I think my advice is slow down and figure out your model first. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to get big quick. They see the success stories. They see, 0 to 60 overnight. And, Odesk has been around since 2004. And most of our growth has been in the last 3 years, not in the first 5. So, I think the emphasis on growth and raising capital as a way to get there, I think probably the best value VCs add early on is how to build a scalable model. So it comes back to the mentorship and the advice. The money's great, and yes, to scale quickly, generally speaking, you need money. But I think having people around you that have done it before, they've seen other startups go through this, they know what the pitfalls are, they can give you some guidance to hopefully prevent you from making the same mistakes that every other startup makes. On the ecosystem side, I've spent a lot of time in Chicago and Vancouver recently at different startup events, and you hear a lot about the ecosystem. And a lot of what you hear about is, I just need access to talent. All the talent is on the coasts. If you need developers, they're all in San Francisco or New York. And I think it certainly does help. Just being in Silicon Valley, you just brownie in motion. You tend to run into things, and things bounce around and happen. But you can do that online. There are communities, there are groups, there are various organizations to help create that same sort of random chance that tends to get a lot of companies going.
Thank you. And Jeff, would you talk a little bit more about the ecosystem built up? I think that's one of your key areas of focus.
That's definitely one of my passions as well. But let me say something about the VC question first. The advice that we typically give entrepreneurs is go as far as you possibly can without taking anybody else's money, right? It's the bootstrap issue. There's 2 reasons that we tell people to build as far as they can first before you approach a VC or anybody. One, the more you prove your business model, the more you get built, and the more you demonstrate the feasibility of your concept, the easier it is to raise money, the more developed you are. And second, of course, you'll get a better valuation if your company is farther down the path. So we encourage people to do. Plus, by the way, as investors, we like to see that you have done everything you possibly can as an entrepreneur to make your idea work, it's kind of the blood, sweat, and tears. You really put everything into it instead of just asking for money on day one with a PowerPoint presentation. So it's important to go as far as you can. And by the way, I understand that Imtiaz's question was VC money, but there's my first 3 startups, we also took private funding. So a VC money is a decision that you make. As Matt mentioned, they can contribute a lot of value in business models, but that's not your only source to consider for funding. On the ecosystem side, I mean, I think it's absolutely critically important. In fact, the reason that I personally donate my time to GIST and the State Department efforts is because what we're trying to do is help people help themselves. Going around the world and trying to help build ecosystems. And an ecosystem consists of the entrepreneurs, the universities, the local and state governments and federal governments involved, the investors in the finance community, mentors in the community. Here's the most important thing I can tell you. Do not wait for somebody to build you an ecosystem. Do it yourself. That's what entrepreneurs do. And you know what's the big secret to building an ecosystem? The ask. Pick up the phone. Contact mentors, contact investors, contact state and federal government, contact the universities. You need to have that ecosystem because a rising tide lifts all boats. We all win when we all work together to do this, and none of us can do it alone.
Those are excellent points. Thank you to the 3 of you. And with GIST, basically, that's the part of our work. We are actually working closely with our partners on the ground to help build those ecosystems and also identify local mentors and connect them with the global mentors such as yourself. So that's at the core of our activity as well. Thank you, Imtiaz, for your questions, and thank you all for the responses. We'll now take live questions from all of you online. Our first question is Umair Ahmed asks, how can we find funding for a startup based in Pakistan?
Well,
very specific question.
Faisal is volunteering right now to go
call Faisal.
I brought my checkbook. It's right here. I think so. It's interesting that even though our venture funds are based in U.S. and we predominantly fund companies in U.S., I have been getting involved in funding companies personally in Pakistan. So I would say the best way to look for funding in Pakistan is to find connections that you have to either local funders or funders in US that are interested in that space. Can be more than just to be funders, can actually be mentors, can help you connect with other sources of funding, can help you with your business model. So in my case, it's all come through sort of friends and family connections where they've identified an entrepreneur who's doing something really interesting and important, and I've gotten engaged with that and started mentoring them, then started investing in them, went on their board, and now helped raising capital for them from US, from Silicon Valley, because the ideas are now, to Jeff's point, that now it's proven. We have customers. We're actually gotten profitable in a couple of the companies that I invested. So now it becomes a lot easier to raise money because the risk is a lot lower. So I think first you need somebody who's credible to back you even a little bit, because that will give you a lot of help and it'll give comfort to other investors that, okay, if so-and-so is involved, then it's a venture worth pursuing.
Great, thank you, Faisal. Faiza Youssef from Ned University in Karachi asks, how do you suggest we choose a mentor or a partner when starting up a new ventures? What are some of the criteria you are looking for?
All right, I'll jump into that, especially on the mentor piece. A mentor, by definition, is probably successful, or you wouldn't want them to mentor you. And they got successful by being busy and working hard. So the mentor that you want is probably the hardest person to get because they're very busy. However, there are a lot of people out there, certainly the 3 of us, that are willing to donate time, willing to mentor, and willing to give back. The key is to do your research and find a mentor who has similar interests. When you go to somebody, I've had people contact me, for example, about a healthcare venture. I've never been in healthcare. I don't know it. It's not really a passion of mine. So I would tell them there's a better mentor than me. There's somebody much smarter than me you should get. What I used to do was go look at a cross-section of interests. What are my goals, and what is the mentor's goals in life? What interests, what background, what experience do they have? And what I'm trying to figure out is, what is the likeliness that this person would have similar interests to mine and want to mentor me? So what I'm saying is, do your homework and find someone who's worked in your industry, who's in your space. One time, I'll just tell you this really quick, one time I did my research on a potential mentor, found out a charity that he was interested in, attended the charity event. I couldn't get a meeting with him in his office. Every time I called, they said, listen kid, quit calling us. But when I saw that he was attending a charity, I bought a ticket, I wandered up to him at the food table and said, nice day, huh, wonderful charity. And he started chatting with me and said, what do you do? And I actually said, I don't want to talk business at this event. And he said, no, I asked you. Well, he invited me to his office and invited me to lunch. I would have never got that appointment in his office, but by sharing interest and attending something that he was interested in, we had a chance to talk.
Creative recruiting, huh?
Well, it worked in the end.
Great, great. One other aspect, I think there's the, hey, I'm going to go get this mentor, and you are going to help me, and it rarely works out that way. I think you tend to end up with mentors, and I think the other way to think about it is there's a portfolio approach. I mean, if I'm looking for advice on one topic, I may go to one person. If it's a different topic, I may go to another. And I think finding someone to quote unquote sponsor you and to be your mentor, I mean, I think Faisal's example is unique. Whereas most people, I think you find different people in different aspects of your life and career to help you at different points. So I think it's a constant effort to be looking out for people who can give you good guidance, give you good advice. And the other thing is think about how you can give back. It shouldn't be a one-way street. You've got to find ways to add value to what they're doing or their lives, or give them something in return. So I think if you approach it from how can I help you, hopefully it will come back, but go into it genuinely looking for ways to help them, and hopefully it will come back.
And that's, I think, great advice from both of you in terms of it's not just a one-way street. It's not just a help me, because it's very hard for people to have that type of time. So find out what are they really interested in and how you can help them. And, from my sort of examples that I was chairman of Silicon Valley Education Foundation for 7 years, and ended up mentoring a lot of people through that who were actually interested and came to the foundation to help the children, to help the education cause, and they ended up getting a lot of help from not just me, but from the entire board, which included CEO of Adobe, CEO of Cadence, CEO of many other large companies. But it was that passion. They found a passion that was shared by both, and that drove a lot of mentorship.
Those are great insights, thank you all. Farouk from Movtak Solutions asks, what are the 3 key elements to be a successful entrepreneur or innovator?
Are there only 3?
Yeah. Only 3.
Persistence. It's not an easy road. It's a very, unless you're passionate and you're persistent, it's a road that you shouldn't take, because it's not an easy road, but it's a fun road. Once you're on that road and you're working on your dreams and you're doing something that you're passionate about, there's nothing like it.
I'll add as well, one of the things that's really important is focus. I see so many entrepreneurs that have all these goals, and they're all great goals and all these things that they want to do, but the key, at least for our businesses and for a lot of entrepreneurs, to being successful was find something that you can do really well and get that done. You need to build something, prove yourself as an entrepreneur. You need to focus. It means you have to tune out the 8 million other things that you want to do and build something that everybody comes back and says, who's the girl or the guy that built that? You need to be recognized by your ability, and your ability comes from delivering a valuable product, not from talking about it. So focus and get it done. The other thing is team. I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but you're never as smart as you think you are. In fact, sometimes the worst thing that happens to an entrepreneur is they're successful, because then they start saying, hey, look at me, I'm smart. You're never that smart, and you not only did you not do it yourself, but you can't do it yourself. So an important thing is to realize that you need to build a team. Every chance you get to network and find people smarter than you, try to team with them. So when you have the best team and you're focused on achieving a very specific goal, that's when you win as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I felt you were addressing me directly. We do have a very good team.
You're not running for anything.
Great. So we have a question from Nast. With the weak regulatory regime in Pakistan to foster entrepreneurship, what are the key suggestions you have for enterprises in Pakistan? How do you overcome some of the challenges in the entrepreneurial ecosystem?
I'll start to address
Please.
that because I've had to actually work through this issue given that I have investments in Pakistan. Essentially, the mindset that I've taken is that I'm going to just ignore the government and try to do everything that needs to be done through the private channels, which is, I think, don't count on any support from the regulatory bodies or from the other institutions. Try to build what needs to be built, create the value proposition for the customer that's amazing, create the channels that are amazing, create your product which is better than anybody else's, and really push towards building it and not really count on any support from the regulatory bodies, because I think right now, unfortunately, in Pakistan, that's a very difficult thing to count on.
Yeah, and I think just regardless of the government, if you're waiting for the government to support you as an entrepreneur, you probably shouldn't be starting your own company. I mean, I think entrepreneurs should be coming at it, back to the previous question about the passion and the energy and the effort. I mean, it's a long haul. It's going to be a battle every day. And if you're waiting for a regulatory regime to prop up your model or your effort, I think you're already lost. So you've really got to push through barriers and not worry about anybody else supporting you. You're going to be fighting all the way through.
To Faisal's point, the most unstoppable force in the universe is a good idea. So as Faisal said, if you have a good idea and you work on developing it and bringing it, good ideas have a way of rallying everybody around them, and they will come, whether it's private sector, public sector. But the most important thing is that you have a good idea and you prove that it is a good idea before you worry about support from a government or anybody else.
Yeah, and Faisal also is in close connection with Victor Hugo, who said nothing is as powerful as an idea whose time has come. So I think it proves once again. And I have one question for you, is Matt, because you do have entrepreneurs on your platform from Pakistan, Algeria. I met some of the Odesk programmers in Algeria and who connected with the entrepreneurs at the GIST event. And I think we see more and more some of these platforms that are able to bring people together across geographies, which is actually one of the idea behind this event, and actually overcoming some of those challenges and working together using these common places of work and exchanging experiences. And also,
right. There is no small business smaller than an independent contractor. When you're an independent contractor, you are an entrepreneur. You're doing sales, you're doing delivery, you're doing finance. You clean up your own desk. You're the whole company. So I think what we see by nature, the people that are working on Odesk tend to be entrepreneurial. They tend to be self-starters. They tend to be looking for ways to build something new and different. And what's fun to watch is you see this global, basically we've completely removed all geographic barriers. So you've got Pakistani entrepreneurs working for Silicon Valley startups. You've got Silicon Valley developers working for Romanian startups. So you're really seeing that kind of global cross-pollination of like-minded individuals. It's really fun to watch.
That's great to hear that. Mariam Zahur from Neduet in Karachi asks, once an entrepreneur starts up his or her ventures, what are the things that he or she must watch out for? What things may jeopardize the startup?
Okay, I'll jump into that. One of the, it's interesting because we talked a few minutes ago about business plans, and the mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is they think that a business plan is a place where you're supposed to write down all the answers. And the truth is, you don't know the answers. You don't know most of the answers. And if you did write down most of the answers, we would know that you were lying, because until you launch the business, you don't know them. A business plan is the place to write down all the questions. The importance of going through the plan is for you mentally to say, what am I watching for? What do I have to learn? What do I have to prove? So the answer to Miriam's question is, one of the things to watch out for as an entrepreneur is having metrics. What was I trying to do? What does success look like? What does a failure look like? What set of numbers and measurable results should I be watching for so that I can say it's working? And that's what happens a lot of time. I've been to events where it's the meetings, it's the end of the year, the entrepreneur and the investor are together, and or even not the investor, just other people, and you'll say, so how did the year go? And at the same time, one says great and one says horrible. And I say, how could this be? It's because they didn't decide in advance what were we expecting to happen. What were the measurements for success to say I should keep investing my life and somebody else's money in this idea? So that's what you need to watch out for, is clearly define success in measurable metrics and continue to track against that as you go so that you can see when you need adjustments instead of waiting till the end of the year.
Yeah, one thing I've seen, and a mistake I've made myself, is building in advance of demand. I think a lot of times an entrepreneur, they have the concept, they know what the product should look like, they know what the ideal scenario is. Fake it before you make it. Figure out ways to test the idea, see what the acceptance is. The painted door, you can mock up a web page pretty easily and then have hamsterware behind the scenes. As far as the customer is concerned, it can be automated. Meanwhile, you're running around like crazy in the background trying to deliver. So I think there are lots of ways to test ideas, get something out and see what happens, as opposed to creating a nice, pretty business plan, spending a lot of time and money in development, then releasing it and hoping people show up. And I think getting something out there quick will end up paying dividends.
Yeah, getting something out there and pivoting on it is really important. I think the other mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, and it's really hard for them to because they fall in love with what they're doing, because this is all they do. 100% of their energy, their effort, their intellectual capabilities goes into one venture, and they sort of lose perspective on what else is happening around them. And that becomes sort of the most important thing, and sometimes they lose sort of how the bigger market is developing. The biggest issue that I have seen entrepreneurs running into is creating solutions that are, I would call, vitamins as opposed to aspirins. So the thing that I always tell all my CEOs or all the entrepreneurs is, are you solving a problem which is an incredible pain for somebody, and that somebody is more than one person? And as long as you're solving something that's really a big problem for somebody, then that's worth pursuing. A lot of times a business plan ends up being, it's a nice to have product. And by the time you come out into the market, there are 9 other solutions that are equally good or can do the job differently. And those are where the failures happen, because you fall in love with your own technology, your own solution. So be very critical of yourself. Be very critical of, are you really solving an incredible pain point for a large market? Or are you providing something which is nice to have for a small group of people? Both solutions, as you said, one person said it was a great year, one person said it was a horrible year, depending upon your perspective. If your perspective is you're providing a nice product for a few people, that's a great year. If you're providing a breakthrough technology for the masses and you don't have it, that's going to be a horrible year. So it's just a matter of perspective. So be very critical of yourself and really think about what are you really providing and is it solving a problem.
Let me just quickly throw one more thing on that, which is exactly what Faisal said, but then add to that a value equation. And by value equation, what I mean is you may in fact determine, as you just said, that you are solving a real problem, but are you solving it in a way that the value chain, that everybody on the food chain can make a living doing it? Meaning, is there a value equation? Is there a price point at which people will pay and you can make money? And the example I used one time to demonstrate this to some entrepreneurs who said everybody loves our product, but they had never sat down to do the economics of it, was I read a story that there was a machine now that you can actually make man-made diamonds. So I said, come with me, and we went outside and we asked everybody, who wants a machine that can make diamonds at home? 100% of our target research audience said, I love your product, I want one. Then I went back and said, they cost $20 million each, and not one person placed an order. Okay, so the fact that everybody likes your product doesn't make it a good business. Make sure you have a value equation where you can make a living doing this and everybody in the food chain wins at a pricing that makes you profitable.
That's great. That's great. Participant with the group at IM Sciences, the Entrepreneurship Development Center at the Institute of Management Sciences, Peshawar, help students start their businesses in the incubation center that we have. How can we link with our entrepreneurs with you as entrepreneurs? I think I can answer.
That's a question for you.
You should sign up for the GIST initiative. I did not have anything, but music to my ears. So basically, I would encourage you to connect with the GIST community, also to be in close touch with our partner on the ground, MIT Enterprise Forum of Pakistan, who has been one of our best partners, have been extremely dedicated in helping the Pakistani entrepreneurs and actually preparing them for all the events that GIST is organizing. As a result, the Pakistani entrepreneurs perform very well in the GIST competitions. I think another opportunity is to identify other entrepreneurship centers from US and other parts of the world and find ways to kind of bridge and collaborate. We have few students in attendance here in DC, and we'll be glad to ask the questions if they can facilitate an introduction. So, because that's one of the purposes of this event as well, and see how we can facilitate more connections between US and Pakistan entrepreneurs and mentors. So we'll make sure to follow up on this question. We have one more question. Umair Malik from Sukur IBA asks, most venture capital that's available in Pakistan is mainly for tech companies. Why is it that venture capitalists are not investing in amazing non-tech businesses in Pakistan?
That's a good question. I only invest in technology and energy businesses. I think that has to do with predominantly what we understand. So in order for a venture capitalist to invest in something, they really have to understand that sector. They have to have the right deal flow. They have to have the right entrepreneurs. They have to have the right understanding of that market so they can be value added. Otherwise, it's just throwing money at something they don't understand. So I suspect the reason is that there are just not venture capitalists or people who invest in other sectors. So you have to find people who have made money in that sector, understand that sector, like ex-CEOs of companies, let's say it's agriculture or it's textiles, and find the people who know that sector, have made money in that sector, are running successful enterprises, and use them as sort of the initial funding, because they'll understand your business better than I will understand it, and they're more likely to invest in something they understand. As VCs, you have to remember one thing, we have to invest in things that we understand. If we go outside of our domain, we'll likely lose money.
Thank you. I would like just to add 2 more resources for the prior question. I would encourage our audience to connect also with the activities at MIT Enterprise Forum DC, and as well the open chapter in DC, and also other chapters around the US. I think those are like few other opportunities that they can leverage to connect with other centers in US. Abdul Wahid Ikra, University Islamabad asks, what points do you think we should ask while assessing our idea? What are VCs who might help financially with an idea or the startup?
I can take the first half of that, which is what you should focus on while initially launching your idea. And the key to that is proving that you have a real customer base, that it's real and that it's sizable and that it's a product that not only do they want, like the example I gave a minute ago, but a product that they will pay for. So a lot of times, as Faisal said, we see people that are really excited about their technology because they're technologists, or really excited about an agricultural product because they're a farmer. Of course you love your product. What we need to see and what you should focus on is proving that there is a market out there, and a sizable and scalable market of people that not only also like your product but will pay money for it. That's the most important thing. Lots of cool products out there, but they're not businesses, and there's no market for them to make money. That's what you should focus on. Prove that somebody that you've never met before will say, I love this product and I will pay a reasonable price for it.
Yeah, I think the debate of is it a feature or is it a business comes into it. And back to earlier comments around metrics. It's hard for someone to learn that their baby is ugly, and when you come in and you've got this great idea and you want to launch a business around it, make sure you've gone through all the steps and given plenty of people opportunities to tell you that your baby's ugly, and then even once it's launched, having metrics in place, having milestones, having those key indicators of whether or not you really do have a viable business as opposed to just a really neat idea is really, really important.
Great. Thank you all for the answers. I have a question myself. Is like, how do you see the role of the new trend in crowdfunding and actually having the entrepreneurs place some of their initial ideas for validation on the market using some of these new tools as a way kind of to get some validation from the market?
Sure. So actually that leads me, I want to address something else for all the entrepreneurs out there. Sometimes entrepreneurs say to me, I don't want to share my idea or tell anybody because somebody will go do it. And that's required for crowdfunding. You have to put your idea out there, to which, this is just my opinion, you guys can jump in, but if your idea is so simple and so easy to copy that just by telling somebody about it, they could steal it from you, get another idea, okay? Your idea either needs to be something you're uniquely qualified to deliver, you have relationships, you have experience, or it's intellectual property you could patent. There needs to be something in your idea that gives you personally and your team an edge in executing the idea. If that is the case, then of course I personally love things like crowdfunding and crowdsourcing, right? And you know, in a way, you are a version of that because you have teams of people all over the world that people can go to get a job done. So I think it's one of the wonderful things about technology today is entrepreneurs that used to live, you live in Islamabad and you have no network bigger than the city you're in. Today, with all these online electronic platforms and tools, you can not only find teams of people to help you build your product, but you can find people to help fund your product. So I think crowdsourcing and crowdfunding represent an excellent opportunity to get help in an environment, in a world bigger than yours.
And I think there's a couple of other things that are extremely favorable for entrepreneurs sitting in Pakistan, Islamabad, Karachi, wherever they are. I'll give you a small anecdotal example. My first startup 27 years ago, when I left Stanford to start this, to be part of the founding team, our first round was $10 million. And we raised 30 million before we had a successful IPO and a company. Today, we're investing $250,000, sometimes $500,000, and for that amount of money, our entrepreneurs not create one product, 2, 3, sometimes 4 different products. They launch them in the market, they test them, they kill them, they relaunch them, they pivot. And so the amount of leverage that's available today for entrepreneurs to either leveraging the crowds in terms of funding or crowds in terms of a crowdsource to get work done or to launch products it's an order of magnitude better than it was 20 some years ago in Silicon Valley. So I think it's an incredible time. So in terms to your question of how to look for VC money, look for angel crowdfunding, friends and family. Now that type of capital can actually launch pretty successful companies without even venture capital money.
Yeah, and I think it, prior to the openness and the crowdfunding type models, a lot of the due diligence was happening before you got your funding. You'd walk into his office, he'd chew you up and spit you out, and hopefully you got a check at the end of it. With crowdfunding, the easier it is to get the money, now, all right, it's easier to get money, it's easier to get something launched, so now all the hard work happens after your product is out there. And so it's interesting seeing it shift further down the pipeline. Instead of it happening at the idea stage and having to prove that the idea is good, now you can build it and get it out there quick and see if it's good. But what happens is you have a lot of products flooding the market in alpha and beta stage, and then they get chewed up and spit out. So you're shifting it down. But I think what's nice is you can actually see it work. It's not theoretical anymore. You're still going to get chewed up. Yeah. It just depends on when it's going to happen.
And you can fail with a lot less dollars,
right,
which is really, really important in our business.
Okay.
You don't want to, yeah, that's right. You want to fail fast and you want to fail cheap.
Right.
You don't want to fail late and fail expensive.
We have time for one quick last question. Asif from Air University, Islamabad asks, how can someone be a good entrepreneur and what steps should he or she take to build or polish his or her entrepreneurial skill set? One idea, each one of you.
Okay, so I think one of the most important things you need as an entrepreneur is your communication skills. You are not going to launch the whole company yourself. You're not going to be the developer, the marketer, the finance person, and all those things over time. You start that way. So one of the most important skills you can develop are your interpersonal communication skills so that you can go find all those people and convince them to join your team.
Man, that's great.
I'll give one word answer, networking.
One word is probably too tough for mine, but appropriately dispassionate. I think entrepreneurs they get fired up about their idea, they want to go make it happen, the chances of you getting it right the first time is really, really small. So being able to step back, take a good retrospective view of how things are going, make adjustments and changes as you need to, that ultimately helps you navigate the path to success.
And I'm afraid we are now out of time for questions. I would like to mention that our speakers, moderators, agreed to answer any questions we have as a follow-up of this. We will be glad as organizers to post this online. To close, I would like to emphasize how this is just the beginning of this conversation. And we can continue by staying involved with GIST, MIT Enterprise Forum of Pakistan and MIT Enterprise Forum of DC. Please come out and vote for our TechEye competition videos. We'll have 90 videos from all the countries that we are working with. The voting will begin October 31st. Thanks to everyone who submitted an application to our competition. We are grateful to all the universities and organizations who recognize the importance of supporting entrepreneurs and who helped make this event a great success. If you are interested in becoming more involved with our partners, please check their websites. I think we'll have the links to their websites online, both MIT Enterprise Forum of Pakistan, of DC, the GIST Initiative, the State Department. I would like to make two announcements. We are very pleased that our speakers, as well as entrepreneurs and executives from the DC audience, agreed to mentor a number of Pakistani entrepreneurs. Will be facilitate this in close partnership with the MIT Enterprise Forum of Pakistan and DC. We will also seek to connect the students from the audience with the students from Pakistan, and also we plan an event on November 16 jointly with the MIT Enterprise Forum of DC, where we'll bring 3 entrepreneurs from the countries we work with to organize a startup clinic. And we'll be glad to have, I think, both Jeff Hoffman and also Faisal with us on November 16. And lastly, I would like to welcome ideas regarding the organization of future GIST TechConnect events with other countries in our network. We think this was an excellent opportunity for some of the wisdom experiences of our speakers to be shared with the entire network in GIST. And stay tuned for more activities. And thank you, everyone, for everything. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
This program has been brought to you by Connex.